The Canadian IMP, or individual meal pack. This is something that we've been seeing a lot more of lately on YouTube, reviews of these, and they're a great ration. It's something I've had a hard time getting my hands on, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing every one that I get. But there's something about the basic design of these rations that has raised a pretty important question about them. The IMP is very similar to the US MRE in that they're both a self-contained meal. MRE is a meal ready to eat, IMP is an individual meal pack. About the only difference on the inside is that there are a few elements of an IMP that might not be 100% ready to eat. You may need water to reconstitute some mashed potatoes, for instance. But otherwise they're pretty similar, but as you can see, they're packaged very differently. The US MRE comes in this pretty tough, thick plastic pouch, while the IMP comes in what looks like a brown paper bag. The thing that's neat about that is it gives it the appearance of being like a brown bag lunch. Kind of a sort of a quaint little thing, but it makes me wonder what is the difference between them as far as being weatherproof, weather resistant, or waterproof. While there really isn't any doubt about the toughness of the MRE as far as just being able to withstand rough handling in general and being in water, the IMP's brown bag appearance makes you wonder if it would be able to withstand being in water, whether exposed to water or immersed in it. But while it is brown paper on the outside, and not terribly thick brown paper either, which I'm sure would not stop any water, on the inside it does have this foil lining. So it has two layers, the paper and another, I guess you'd say it's like a paper, but it's lined with foil. This is definitely going to give it some level of protection, but I'm not sure if it's going to be actually waterproof or not. And I also don't know the government regulations or specifications for these. Obviously each country's governments are going to make their own specifications for what they want in their rations. And with the US ones, the government obviously wanted them to be waterproof. I can't say that I know, maybe somebody else does, but I don't know the specifications for the IMP and its level of durability and waterproofness. So what we're going to do today is pretty simple. We're going to immerse an IMP in water and see how it holds up. And then we'll have that question answered once and for all. And as sort of a control, we're also going to do it with an MRE too. I have no doubt that this one is going to be plenty waterproof. The one thing with either of these is that obviously if the packaging is compromised in any way, if there's a hole or a tear in here, then it's whatever waterproofness it would have is going to be gone. But this one has some vacuum seal to it, so I don't see any issues with the packaging. So I'm pretty confident that this one is going to be just fine. It's the same with this one. I don't see any defects, but it's going to be interesting to see how stuff like this will hold up to water. And just to make it even a little bit more interesting and a little bit more complete, there's also the question of commercial MREs. Commercial MREs don't go by the same standards that the genuine government ones do. So they obviously, I don't think there's anything saying that they're required to be waterproof or even water resistant. But they're generally packaged in a pretty similar way. This one right here is a Sepaco civilian MRE. And there's a Sepaco genuine one. So there you can see they're in a similar bag. This one seems to be a little bit thinner, but otherwise it's sealed up the same, and it seems pretty durable. This one is an APAC ready meal from Ameriqual. Same company that makes this one here. And the Ameriqual ones generally have this, we generally usually call this an inner bag. They generally have this inside of the outer bag. So this is pretty much packaged exactly like a genuine one would be from Ameriqual, but without the tough outer bag. So I'm going to go ahead and immerse all of these into some water for a few minutes and just see how they all hold up. And here we have a sink with enough water to cover the rations. I did have one issue. I was looking at the Sepaco commercial MRE and realized that this is probably a good example of how it doesn't go under the same restraints as a government one. Because the way this was sealed, the top is fine, but the bottom, it was sealed at an angle, and the angle was sharp enough that it actually didn't quite seal the very end right here. I'm not sure if you can see this, but yeah, you can see that. The it's actually open to the elements. So because of that, it's, like I said, it's a good example. If this was a genuine MRE, I'm assuming this wouldn't pass inspection, and it would have either been thrown out or repackaged. But since it is a commercial one, it doesn't need to be up to the same standards as a genuine one. So we're not actually going to do this one, because it's pretty obvious that this is not waterproof, and the water is going to get into this, even though I don't think it would normally. But that still leaves us with our menu number 7 hamburger IMP from 2014. Menu number 19 MRE, beef roast with vegetables from Ameriqual. And an 8-pack ready meal, also from Ameriqual. And we're going to go ahead and put these into the water. I'm going to see, I'm pretty sure that, yes, these float. That's one thing they all have in common. And I did want to actually have these immersed in the water, though. So this may not be a good idea. And that gets soggy really quick. So I think I'll make this a shorter test than I planned on doing. That really didn't hold up at all. It's really just like wet paper now. And these seem to be fine. So what I'm going to do is to get them all under the water. And just put this tray on them and cover the whole thing with a rock or something. Yeah, just give that about a minute or so. I was going to give it like 10 or 15 minutes, but I think 1 minute will be enough. Alright, let's see what our rations look like. The US ones look perfectly fine. Don't see any evidence of anything wrong with these, but I will dry this off and make sure there's no water inside of here. The IMP, the paper does not hold up well at all to the water, but let me get the excess water off of here and we'll open it up and check out the insides. Alright, and after drying these up a little bit, it's not too surprising that the US ones seem to be just fine. This genuine one, I'm not seeing any issues here. It still has its vacuum seal. Still seems to be sealed up perfectly fine. Since you can't see inside, we are going to take a quick look. But the 8-pack ready meal, also from Ameriqual, this one, because it's in the clear plastic, you can actually see that there's indeed no water inside of here, even though this is a much thinner bag than the genuine one. And since Ameriqual generally puts this bag inside of these, it's really double protection. Obviously the US ones, one of the requirements of them is to be to some extent waterproof. And as I said, I'm not really sure with the Canadian ones what the regulations are, so if it didn't survive, it's not saying that it failed, it's just saying that it wasn't necessarily meant to be under these kind of conditions. I think if you were out in the rain and it got a little damp, that would be fine. I mean, there's no reason to say that these things need to be submerged in water. But as it turns out, the US ones could be. I mean, you could store this underwater if you wanted. It's so safe as long as the packaging isn't compromised. Let's just take a quick look in here inside, though. Make sure it's as dry as it appears it's going to be. And here's the familiar inner bag. Well, you can see this is, I've never seen one vacuum sealed this well. This is really nice, actually. And you can see that's perfectly dry. Other than being vacuum sealed, it's the same exact kind of bag as this 8-pack has. And the bag itself is also bone dry inside. Of course, none of that came as any real big surprise. It's just kind of trying to make it a little more interesting, add a couple extra test subjects. But that, of course, brings us to our IMP, which the outer bag did not survive anywhere near as well. It's obviously not designed to be water resistant, it's just brown paper. And of course that's fine, there's nothing saying that this has to survive being in the water. But it does have the inner foil-lined bag, and now we're going to find out what kind of protection that gives the IMP. Ah, okay, this is interesting. Everything isn't soaked in here, but the water definitely did come through. Whether it came through the foil or whether it came through the corners and the folds, I'm not sure. But let's see if I can get this out of here. That's a shame. Here's the big napkin that comes with it, and that is soaked. So, yes, did not stop the water at all, really. It's not full of water, but I'm guessing that it came through the bottom, where it's all folded up, but nothing is actually sealed per se. You can see the bottom on the cardboard is a lot worse than the top. Everything else seems to be fine, other than the two outer boxes. The bottoms on both of them a lot worse than the tops. Some stuff obviously did come through the top too, but it appears as though I guess the result is that the foil lining is to some extent waterproof, but the way it's sealed, it doesn't actually stop the water from coming through if you submerge it. I mean, what soldier is going to be out and submerging their meal before they eat it? I think if you had this in your pack and it was a rainy day, even if it was a downpour and it got a little bit damp, I think you'd be fine. But and of course inside these cardboard boxes are retort pouches, which are also fine to have in water. I think this would be okay in water. There's going to be some stuff in here that wouldn't survive as well, some stuff that will be just fine, like this sugar pack. If that got soaked, and if it had been in much longer, it probably would have. That wouldn't be very good. Everything smells like white cardboard now. And the best example is the napkin, which should look like this and be dry, but instead it is very wet. So that answers that question. Is an IMP waterproof? No. Is it water resistant? Probably to some extent. And I do apologize. I know if you see a video with an IMP, you're probably expecting a review. This was part of the MRE Basics series, and it was basically just to answer the question about the waterproofness of an IMP. But I will do a review on this one, and I'll put a link down below if you want to check that out too. But thank you for joining us on this little adventure, and thank you for watching.